Hey everybody, it's Miss Taylor.
And Miss Trienne.
And we are the Character Education team, and today we are here to talk to you about honesty and trustworthiness. So the two questions we have for you today is it okay to tell a little lie? And do you know how to apologize?
So you're going to take those questions and kind of discuss it through your class, but you think to yourself, yes or no. Is it okay to tell a little lie? Do you know how to apologize? And do we have to apologize every time that we have a problem with a friend? Not every time, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but it is important for you to know the steps and how and to get through that conversation. So telling the truth makes everybody around us feel happy. When we're around somebody who we know that we can trust, who we know is an honest person, we feel better about ourselves, and we definitely feel better about that relationship.
Exactly. And sometimes it's hard because you may think the truth may hurt their feelings at first. You know, something silly could be like, if someone has something in their teeth, and you don't want to say it and because you don't want to embarrass them, but telling them the truth is going to help in the long run. So right away, they may be like, oh my gosh, like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But in the long run, that you just saved them from showing 400 more people that nasty food in their teeth.
Right. And what is honesty?
Yeah.
I mean, we should probably start with, what does it mean to be honest? And it basically means just tell the truth. No matter what, whether you don't feel great about something that you've done or you are unsure of how they're going to take the information, the right thing to do is to tell the truth. And that's an honest person.
Yeah. So it may at first feel like you're trying to hide something, or, you know, you may be starting more of a problem by telling the truth, but it's always going to be longer in the long run because it's going to help your relationship, and it's just going to make you feel better because you're not going to feel like you have to chase all your lies.
Right. You don't have to remember the things that you said because you have been remembering memories, really, right?
So if you guys remember last year when we talked about honesty and trustworthiness, and even if you didn't, if you're a little younger and you don't remember, we always talked about how lying can sometimes be more work. You know, it's always keeping up with those big lies and wait, who did I tell what and what did I, and, you know, because you can't tell everybody the same lie, and you're like, oh, and you get in that idea of a bad habit. We also talked about honesty and trustworthy as a habit we can get into.
So telling the truth is going to build the relationships around you. And when I say build, I want you to think about either, you know, the blocks that are in your classroom, or if you know the game Jenga. You want to think about how you're building that tower, right? So if your relationship is that tower, every time that you do something to build the trust between the two of you, every time that you do something to make that other person feel like they can trust you, you're putting a block into that tower. Now, unfortunately, when I do something that is not trustworthy or not honest, what am I doing?
You're taking a block away.
Taking a block away. And potentially, you can kind of visualize that anytime you take a block out of the middle, the tower could collapse. What happens when our tower collapses? That's just an example of that's what happens to our relationship. Now, can it be rebuilt? Absolutely.
But what's important to remember about rebuilding is it may not happen as fast. And we're going to kind of talk about that when we get into the steps of an apology. Is mom and dads and grandmas and grandpas will always forgive you. They'll always let you build your tower back up, but it may take a little longer.
And it might look different.
Exactly. And your mom, you know, she may be able to trust you, but she may always ask you now, where back then she wouldn't ask you, you know, are you telling the truth? And it's just letting there be space for that difference in the relationship. So the steps of an apology. So the first one is you need to take care of that anger and that stress or that sadness first. So if me and Miss T got in a fight and I'm still really worked up, but I just didn't really want to fight with her anymore, so I'm just like, okay, I'm sorry.
Probably not going to take that as a like sincere,
is there anything that sounded honest about that? Because some of us don't like conflict or fighting, so we just want to quickly apologize so we can just forget about it. But if it's serious enough, it's not just going to go away. So you're going to want to make sure you are okay first. You know, it's okay to be angry. We talked about that. It's okay to be sad. Give yourself time. Sometimes people only need 30 minutes. Some people need a few days. Some people may need months, depending on the size of the argument. So then the second step to an apology is using I statements. So we really find ourselves always falling into the habit of, well, Trian, you made me mad, and you did this, and you did that, and, you know, has anything I said to her, I'm apologizing, right? So that's saying I'm sorry. But everything I just said to her was who? That was her.
Acting like it was my fault.
You.
You've done something wrong. Yep.
Exactly. So an I statement is when I said, I know I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I know I was in the wrong. So it's kind of putting it on you. And it's not going to make you mad when you say an I statement, because the first step is you already know. Mm-hmm. You're already calm. You know who did what and why we did it, because you've already took time to think about that.
And that's what we call accountability, personal accountability, where you say, I am the one that did this, and now I need to fix it. It's owning up to something that you might have done.
And if you skip step 1 and you just try to make I statements, you're going to see that too. When you're like, I know I did something wrong. I'm sorry, Trian. Okay, so I'm using I statements, but can you still read that, like, I don't believe my I statements?
That I'm really wrong. Yep.
Yeah. So even if I'm not using the words you, Trian, and I haven't dealt with my sadness or anger, you're going to be able to tell. Mm-hmm. So then the next step is to, where is it? Okay, understand that they may not accept your apology. So that kind of comes back into that time thing. So if and I am a person that I take 30 minutes, like, unless it's something super serious, usually 30 minutes, I'm like, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go apologize. So I may go apologize to Trian, do my I statements, do all that, and Trian says, okay, thank you, and walks away, and I'm like, but I apologize.
Some of us need more time.
Well, Trian, she's like a 2-dayer, let's say. You know, she's like 2 to 4 days, and she's like, thank you for apologizing, but I still need my space.
I still need the space. And we've talked about personal space, and this comes with the forgiveness part, too. You need to be able to give them that time. You need to be able to let them walk away. You did your part by saying, I am sorry, I did this, right? But you also need to respect that other person to give them that space.
So it's remembering that emotional personal space we talked about. And then the last one is don't expect that the relationship will go back to normal right away, or if at all. So depending on the size of the fight or the argument, Trian's going to come to me in 4 days and say, hey, thank you for that apology.
At least 4 days.
She's going to say, thank you for that apology that you gave me 30 minutes into our fight. You know, thank you. I accept. And then she still walks away. And I'm like, why don't you want to play on the swings with me? Or something, you know what I mean? So we're both at that spot now where we're okay. We don't think about it. We don't hold that anger in our body. But Trian still obviously isn't ready to trust me again.
Yep. It takes time to rebuild that. And again, just like we talked about with the blocks and the Jenga tower, it's not going to look the same, okay? And it's going to be built a little differently, a little bit more unsupported and rickety, but with good practice of making sure that you're building on that honesty, you'll be able to build that relationship again.
Absolutely.
So the book that we have for this lesson can be found, and it's called The Empty Pot. There's definitely other books about honesty and trustworthiness. One that comes to mind for me is called What Would Danny Do? I'm sure that your class has books around it that you'd be able to pick up, or your teacher has one to suggest that would be great to talk about honesty and trustworthiness.
Yes. So today our activity is a game that you guys have probably played a lot, and it's called Telephone. So if you're not familiar with Telephone, it's you guys get in a line or maybe a circle. You get together and you have the first person will say a statement. So it could be, I like cats. So you usually play this with a group of people, you know, so it's not going to be very cool when me and T play it right now. but usually you have more people, like everybody in your class. So if I say I like cats, the goal is by the time it gets all the way around, the person sitting on this side of me would say, hey, Miss Taylor, did you say I like cats? And then that would be a successful game of telephone.
Yep.
But you guys are kids. And I remember when I was a kid, it was always funny
Change
to
it up
change
a little
it
bit.
up. So then by the time it got around, I said I like cats. And by the time the person sitting here, they go, Miss Taylor, did you say you like bald cats? And I'm like, what? I don't like bald cats. And then it's just kind of funny.
But it's still a lie. It's still being dishonest.
So we go back to that question when we ask, is a little lie okay? Some are lighthearted like that, but when we go back to last year's lesson in character ed, we talk about those little lies forming bad habits. So even though you may think changing the words and telephone is funny, me and Miss T take it very serious. You know, we're like, we want to try to get it and work on our communication skills, work on our honesty skills, skills, and there's lots of different things that come into this game. So our mission for you is to try to play some rounds of telephone and not switch it on purpose. Now, if you do it accidentally, because sometimes you have bad ears.
Sometimes that happens.
That's fine. But I know there's you out there. I'm looking at you. I know you change it on purpose, because that used to be me too, because it was always funny. But this is just today, we're just going to practice it this way and see how much fun we can have with that.
Yep. And your character check for this lesson is going to be for you to really catch yourself. Sometimes it is easier to tell a little white lie, but if you want to be an honest and trustworthy person, you're going to make sure that you take that opportunity to tell the truth and be upfront and honest, even when it can be a little bit scary, because you're going to feel better when that's over with. So your character check for this week is to try to tell the truth and be honest as much as possible.
And it's just watching those little white lies, you guys, because it can turn into a bad habit. You may find yourself lying about the silliest things that don't matter. One that I always use is when your friend says, hey, did you see that movie? And you're like, yeah, I seen it. Why don't you just say no?
Why don't you just say
I sometimes still do that. And I'm like, just say you haven't seen it. So some little white lies can be lighthearted, but some can turn into a pretty bad habit that we don't really want to start.
Yep, and that'll hurt people's feelings. If you want to build on those relationships, we need to be honest and trustworthy.
All right, so we always end with saying those 2 questions again to see if maybe your answer has changed, or if you kind of think differently about it. So the first question was, is it okay to tell a little lie? And do you know how to apologize?
I think I know how to apologize correctly after this, but
I do.
We'll see how you guys do. Have a good week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.